coaches, and welcome to the El Paso Premier League. My name is Cesar Sosa. I'm one of the league directors, and we've put together this little new coach orientation to sort of show you the structure, policies, rules, sort of anything that you can expect as a coach in the El Paso Premier League to sort of guarantee your success and your team's success, right? If you once you have all the knowledge and all the information that I'm about to share. So I do suggest you watch this through the end. I'll try to keep this video as short as possible and go through the information as fast as possible. The PowerPoint by itself will also be available, so you can always just go back and look at the information by itself without having to watch this whole thing again. So without further ado, we'll jump right in. And I hope you enjoy it. So jumping right into it, we do primarily do all of our contact through emails, right? It is the best way for us to keep all of our information organized and to ensure that we're providing a great service to you and making sure that any sort of request, any sort of communication that you have with us gets answered and gets taken care of. We sort of have it broken down into 3 separate emails. The first of which is our general email. It's the email that you'll give to your parents. It's the email that if you have any sort of general question, it's where you would ask those questions, and that is our info@epppremierleague.com. Again, that is kind of like your general run-of-the-mill customer service email. So anything that you have, any questions that you need clarified, that's where it would go. Or if your parents need help with anything, or they have any questions, that's the email that you would give to them. Moreover, or next, we have our 2 most important emails, which is the registrar email and the schedules email. So given by the name, anything that has to do with rosters, registrations, IDs, club pass, you need to make a modification to your roster, you're missing a player, a new player just registered, anything that has to do with your rosters throughout your participation in the El Paso Premier League must be emailed to registrar@epppremierleague.com. Okay, we do not take roster modifications, anything like that, through any other form of communication. That is the best way to have it organized. Same idea for the schedule. So anything that has to do with the schedules, requests, conflict resolutions, blackout dates, anything that has to do with the schedule period has to be handled through the schedules@epppremierleague.com email. That is where our schedule team receives, works on, and does everything to do with the schedule, right? Again, requests, conflicts, anything like that, right? So it's super important for you as a new coach to know these emails and to know where to send your information to avoid any delays in resolving the issue that you need help with. Also, we do have a on-field issues hotline per se, which is our field manager's number. It is for coaches only, right? So it's not for parents. It's not for you to give out to your parents, your spectators. It is for coaches and managers only. Okay, so if you ever have any issues on the field, if you have any issues with your roster, if you have any issues with a referee, this is the number you would want to call and make sure you have someone help you at the field while the situation is happening. Okay, so it's an important number to have, but again, it is for coaches only. Moving on, we do have an office where we work and where we are there ready to help you in person with anything that you might need, or any of your parents that might need help with anything, any sort of in-person assistance. We are at our office Tuesdays through Thursdays from 12 to 6 p.m. If it's a bigger issue, or if you genuinely need help and you can't make those times, send us an email. We can definitely set up an appointment and have someone be there to help you at any other time that you need, obviously within reason. Okay, so just so you know, we are there. We are here to help with anything you need. Moreover, we do have a text message announcement system. We use this to basically announce important kind of time-sensitive information. In the spring season, there's sometimes cancellations because of the wind, or sandstorms now recently. So we use this sort of information to get this timely information out to everyone. You can join this text messaging system simply by texting EPPL coach to that phone number. Okay, we promise we're not going to send out any random information. It'll always be time sensitive information about the league. Okay, so um, one of the one of the things that I'd like to make sure every new coach knows is that we do have our important dates slash calendar, whatever you want to call it, published for every season, weeks in advance, weeks before the league starts. Okay, and that information can be found on our website, right? If you go to epppremierleague.com and you have, you'll be able to access our website. And under the league info tab, you'll see important dates and calendar. Very, very important dates, all this important information about whatever particular season you're watching this on. Every date will be on here. For example, here in the 2025 fall season, we have every important date from the team registration opening all the way down to the finals weekend. So again, if you want to see all of the important dates from a particular season, just go ahead and visit that important dates calendar tab and it'll be right there for you. Also on the EPPL website is probably the most important page for you as a coach, which is the coach resource page. Okay, this page is filled with a bunch of very useful information for all of our coaches. Basically, anything that you have here and that you will see here in this presentation is going to be on that coaches page. Okay, so again, if we just hop back onto our EPPL website and we go to the resources tab and go ahead and click coaches, you'll be able to see our coach resource page here. As you can see, you'll have the fall 2025 meeting. You'll have your referee grievance forms, a refresher on all of the on the emails that we went over. More importantly, though, you'll have your coach handbook for whatever particular season. I strongly guarantee that you, as a new coach, read that handbook. It has all of the important information you need. But you'll also have some more important documents like the rules by format, which is basically the rules for 4v4, 7v7 more specifically. You also have some of our disciplinary documents, which you're going to go over right now. You're going to have also your schedule request forms, which we'll go over right now. Some important videos that will help you, as well as your requirements or how to complete your requirements as well. So again, very, very important page that I suggest you get familiar with and that you understand where it is, how to find it, and just accessing that for important information. I like to I like to notify or talk to every new coach about our mission here as an organization and as a community, really, which is to create a competitive league that will help young soccer players from the El Paso, Juarez, and Las Cruces borderplex develop, compete, and excel in this beautiful game, all while providing a safe and friendly environment for players, parents, and coaches so that they can all focus on the most important aspect of this game, which is having fun, right? Which is all to say that we are a development first league. Yes, we are, we love competition and we promote competition and we have our different competitive levels and we have the awards that we're going to get into and all of that. But at the end of the day, this is a development first league and we fully expect all of our coaches to have that mindset of developing first, right? Before caring about a medal or a trophy, how are we developing these players? I strongly encourage you to buy into that mission and make our community and our young soccer players better. Okay, so just again, here's our mission. You can come back to it whenever you feel like you're maybe wanting a little refresher on what we're trying to do here. Now, diving into a little bit of the league structure as a whole, two things in particular: how does the league work, and also our competitive divisions. Right. First, I'll kind of dive into the competitive divisions, just because it's something that we, really work hard on providing. 3 separate competitive divisions, each geared towards a specific type of team in a different stage of development, right? So we have our most competitive division, which is called the Premier. It is for those teams that are ready to compete against the best teams in the region, again, the best teams in the city. There is only one Premier division per age group, and it is offered from U9 through U19. So we won't have a Premier division for our little ones. It will have your typical league structure in terms of a regular season and playoffs, and we'll have our basic awards such as a trophy, medals, third place medals, that sort of thing. But as an incentive to Premier Division teams wanting to compete, we also have some extra awards and some extra perks. The first of which is the individual player awards. So for our Premier Divisions, we do offer MVP award, a top goal scorer award, and a best goalkeeper award. And also, we do give all of our Premier Division champions champions T-shirt commemorating their success for that season, right? So every Premier Division championship team gets a free T-shirt, that sort of says Premier Division champions for that particular season. Premier Division is obviously very competitive, and it sounds fun and all the awards and everything, but it's really not only for competitive teams, but it's also for dedicated and organized teams, right? And that is why we fully expect Premier Division teams to be ready to go week one. Rosters, uniforms, numbers, everything is ready to go week one. I always like to remind coaches that having your rosters ready to go and having your numbers ready to go helps us in top goal scorer tracking. That way, we don't run into any issues with, who scored which goals and everything like that. So, having everything ready to go week one is going to make sure that you're getting that advantage as well. Finally, and I think one of the most important and interesting perks of being a Premier Division team is that all of our Premier Division champions, U13 and up, so our 11v11 categories, have a chance to qualify for the U.S. Club regional competition. This previous year from this recording in the summer of 2025 was the first time we sent teams over to Tulsa, Oklahoma. We sent over, I believe, 6 or 7 teams that represented El Paso at the U.S. Club Regional, 3 of which won and then went on to represent El Paso in the national event. So I think it's just an incredible perk. El Paso Premier League covers half of the registration fee, and our teams get automatic acceptance. They do not have to go through an application process. So they qualify directly. So sort of how that structure works is the spring champion plays the fall champion in the Premier Division for a chance to qualify to the regional event of the following year, right? So as of this recording, our spring 2025 champions will play the fall 2025 champions for a chance to win, or for a chance to go to the regional and then advance on to the nationals afterwards. So very exciting. 1 second. Ooh, sorry about that. So moving on, we sort of have our second tier division, which is more of a developmental division. It's maybe for teams that are ready to compete, just maybe not ready to compete against the top level teams just yet, right? This division is offered across the board from U6 all the way through U19, and it is your traditional league structure, right? Where you have playoffs, you have your regular season, you have playoffs, and at the end there is a trophy. There's medals for champions and finalists and medals for third place. However, we don't have all those extra perks. And then finally, we have kind of our third division or third tier, which is our recreational division. Now, this division is strictly recreational, right? It is for beginner teams that want to, that are just starting out in this game and are really trying to get a taste of what competition is without the stress, right, of competition. So we offer recreational divisions in 4v4 and 7v7 only, so U5 through U10. Now, again, this division is strictly recreational, so there is no scores kept, there is no playoffs. Every team just plays their regular season games, and at the end of the season, all of the players get a participation medal. However, it is important to note that we do have referees at these games, and that's just something that we believe in to get the players ready for game-like situations, right? And understanding that there is a referee and I have to follow certain rules and I have to listen for a whistle, all that good stuff. However, again, scores are not kept. There is no champion. We just play through the regular season, and at the end of the season, every player just gets a participation medal. So again, 3 different divisions, all geared towards 3 different teams, if you may, right, in different stages of development. But again, a great experience for all teams. We do also implement a promotion and relegation system. Now, it's not as simple as, I win, I go up, I lose, I go down. It's more geared towards making sure that teams that have maybe a lot of success at a championship division or a championship level, and by a lot of success, I mean, kind of blowing out all of the other competition, those teams will more likely than not get moved up, regardless of coach input. And the other, vice versa as well, right? So if a team is just doing very, very poorly in a division, we might move them down for the following one. Okay, and that's basically all that means. So that, again, I always like to remind coaches, if you do very well in one season, you could, more likely than not, you're going to get moved up to the next competitive division for the following season. Diving a little bit more into now the actual structure of the El Paso Premier League, we are kind of structured or broken up into what I would call three separate leagues or three separate divisions, right? If we kind of look at it as a little pyramid, at the top, we have our citywide league, which is what we call the El Paso Premier League, right? Now, this league is designed to promote competition and development for the best teams across the city and even the region, right? We have teams from West Texas, from New Mexico, all coming down to play in this division, to kind of compete against the best of the best, right? Games for this division, or for this league, whatever you wish to call it, are played at both the West Side Sports Complex and the East Side Sports Complex. It's roughly half and half of a team's schedule, right? It's a citywide league. It's not an East versus West. It's not anything like that. So it's roughly half and half of your schedule where you're playing maybe, 1 or 2 weekends on the East Side and 1 or 2 weekends on the West Side. It mainly just depends on how we can organize the schedule to fit your needs, to fit the league's needs, and also, and most importantly, field availability. As you may know, we do not own these complexes. They're owned by the city, so they get to regulate sort of which fields we have access to throughout the season. So we might play a little bit more over there. We might play a little bit more over here. It just kind of gives everyone that flexibility of playing on both sides of the city. Now, super important, this league or this division, the citywide league, is where all of our premier divisions will play. We just talked about what those premier divisions are. So again, all of our U9 through U19 premier divisions will play in the citywide El Paso Premier League, where they will be playing on both sides of the city, and you're going to be playing against the best of the best. Moreover, all of our 11v11 age groups, U13 through U19, will also be playing in the citywide league, both premier and championship, right? Regardless. Now, in a very, very important caveat here that I would love to tell, that I would, love for every new coach to know, is that premier divisions will always be citywide, right? That's just kind of how it's structured. However, if there are enough teams in a championship division, 11v11, like U13, U14, U15, that want to split up and play only on one side or the other, we can definitely accommodate. It just depends on how many teams are willing or want to do that. Right? If there's enough teams that want to play only on the west side and enough teams that want to play only on the east side, we can definitely split that up and accommodate. Just at a league-wide level, at an organization level, this is kind of like our point blank statement, but we can always just dive in situation by situation, division by division, or age group by age group, and decide from there, okay? So now, kind of remember our pyramid, we come down to the next level, which is where our next two leagues or divisions are, right, which is our EPPL West and our EPPL East. Now, these leagues are designed for younger and more developmental teams that want to play primarily or only in their area of the city, right? So, for example, in the EPPL West, our games are played mainly at the West Side Sports Complex, but 100% on the west side of town. Now, that's just kind of like an important disclaimer just in case, we might have to play some games at other fields on the west side, but but the majority of your games, if not all of your games, will be played at the West Side Sports Complex. Now, falling back again to our competitive divisions, these divisions, these leagues are open to our championship and our recreational divisions. So U5 through U12, you'll be able to select which side of the city you want to play at. So same will go for the EPPL East, right? They'll same thing. They'll just play all their games at the East Side Sports Complex, and again, championship and recreational divisions. Now, it's very, very important to note here that EPPL East and EPPL West are two separate leagues, right? They fall under the EPPL umbrella, and as such fall under the roster rules, club pass rules. We'll sort of get into that in a little bit as well, and I'm sure you'll learn more as you go along. But what I mean by independent leagues is that teams that register for EPPL East will only play teams in EPPL East, right? At no point will these two leagues combine, East versus West, playoff, anything like that, right? EPPL East is over here, EPPL West is over here, and they're two separate things. Once your team is ready to sort of play against teams from the other side, and you want to play some teams from the rest of the region, you would kind of jump into that Premier League division and compete there, right? But other than that, that's kind of like the basic structure of the El Paso Premier League. So now that we kind of know what the structure is, I want to dive into the two most important processes throughout a regular season, which is your roster process and your scheduling process, right? It's the two main things that are going to happen. It's making sure all your players are approved and ready to go, and making sure your schedule is set, and making sure your schedule requests are set, and everything like that, right? So diving right in, we have our roster process. So it's actually very straightforward, right? Step one, you register your team as a coach. Step two, once your team is accepted, you tell your players to use the player registration link, register themselves, and during the registration, they will select your team and be automatically added to your event roster, right? Now, that's not the end of the process. We obviously have to go in, verify the player's information, verify documents, verify pictures, go through all that stuff, right? Once all of those things are verified, your players are approved, and then they're added to your roster PDF. Now, your roster PDF is the most important document for your season. It'll show you which players are approved. We'll dive into a little bit more about how to access that document in a second here. Just wanted to let you know. Again, if you are missing any players that you know have registered or need to make any changes whatsoever to your roster, you have to send an email to registrar@epppremierleague.com, and that way we can get that process started of adding a new player, making any changes, anything like that. Very important is that any team that plays in a Premier Championship division must have their jersey numbers, both obviously on their uniforms and on the roster. So we'll dive a little bit deeper into new uniforms and numbers, kind of rules and guidelines, a little bit down the PowerPoint, but I just wanted to leave that information there in the roster section, just so you know that you do have to add your numbers to the roster. Okay. Again, we do have roster freeze dates, right? You can't just make changes whenever. Again, it just promotes organization, and it makes sure that we can take care of all the requests that are made in a timely manner. So rosters will freeze every Wednesday prior to week 1 at 6 p.m. Okay, so whatever season you're participating in at the moment, the Wednesday before week 1, Saturday, rosters will freeze at 6 p.m. After that, rosters freeze every Thursday at 6 p.m. Okay, now you can't see all this information right now because you're looking at me, but that just says that there will be no game day changes. Okay, so what does that mean? Is if you did not send your change, your update, your new player request, anything like that before Thursday at 6 p.m., do not expect to show up at the field and say, hey, I forgot to text you this, or I forgot to email you this, sorry, can you make this change right now? No, we cannot, right? Rosters are frozen. You should have sent it before the deadline. Okay, super important. Last thing, also very important, please add your coaches to your league roster. Okay, there is a maximum of 3 per team. 1 head coach, 2 assistants. Please, please, please go ahead and add your coaches. Again, just to really build on that point, that we don't do business on the fields. And what we mean by that is, again, if you do not send in your requests, if you do not update your rosters prior to the freeze date, don't show up to the game on Saturday and expect for any changes to be made. Okay, if you forgot to make the update and the player isn't there, it's basically on you as the coach. So, just don't expect players to be approved, players to be added, any roster changes to be made on game day. Okay. So, just again, right? If you get a new player, if you need to make any changes to your roster, it is your responsibility to let the registration team know in order for them to make that change or update, right? Just as a quick example, a new player arrives at your club on Monday. You ask them to register before the weekly deadline. Once registered, you send an email to the registrar at EPPL and you let us know that this change or update needs to be made, right? We're going to make that change. For example, if it's a new player here in this example, that player still needs to be verified by US Club Soccer. So I always suggest that you check back the next day, right? Hey, is there any update on my player? Is it approved now? All that good stuff, right? But once everything is approved, they will appear on your roster PDF. There's that roster PDF again, right? We'll go into it in a second. Just really want to hammer it into you new coaches that the first step of making any change or update to a roster is emailing the registrar team, okay? Always, always, always. So please just remember that. So, right, how do we access our roster PDF? Cesar, you've mentioned it so many times. So let me go ahead and show you. There is a video on the coaches page on how to do this. So anytime you need to access your virtual cards or roster, it's right here. And this is actually shown from a cell phone perspective. But if we go ahead and log into our Godsport account, right, it usually brings us to our account page here. If we go to team management, you'll see a list of all your teams, right? All the teams where you're a coach or a manager. You'll go ahead and click the team name, right? And that'll pop up the team's information. Now, this is the team's general information and everything, right? So I want to point out that there's two tabs here that people sometimes get confused. We have the team members tab, which shows all of your players and all the players that have been associated with your account, that played with you at one point or another, but this is not your league roster, right? You can find your league roster by clicking the rosters tab, then selecting the EPPL, in this case, the EPPL fall season, and hitting search. Now, as you can see, this is a test team, so obviously I don't have any players, but if any players were to register and select the Cobras 22 test team during the registration process, they would show up in my player list here, right? So again, a lot of new coaches get confused and think, oh, this is my player, this is my roster. So I'll ask them on the fields or whenever they have a question. Here, let me see, show me your roster, right? And they show me this. This isn't a roster, right? This is a player list on a system, right? On a computer system. I always like to use the analogy of, hey, if it was back in the day and you were, and I asked you for your roster, you would show me a printed document, with pictures, with information, with the league logo, with everything, right? That is the document that you would show me. So just because it's digital, don't get confused. It is still that document. It's just in PDF format. So if we go ahead and hit the Documents and IDs tab, you'll be able to see that you have both ID cards and also a roster PDF. Now, you can always access your ID cards here, but your roster PDF will show you the exact same information and it's more concise. So hit your roster PDF. Again, I do not have any players at the moment, but this is your check-in document, right? This is what you need to see. All of your players need to show up here. If you don't have any players here, if you're missing a player here, send us an email. We'll get it sorted out for you, right? But this is your official roster PDF. You will hear me or someone from the team refer to this document constantly throughout the season. Check your roster PDF, have access to your roster PDF, all that stuff. This is the document we're talking about, okay? Players who show up here are approved to play. If they do not, they're not approved to play. So, again, check this, double check it, make sure your team is ready to go. That is how you access your roster PDF. Again, right, you have your check-in document examples, and this is where you want all of your players to show up, right? You have your roster document, and you have your virtual ID cards. I showed you how to access both of those. If your player does not show up here, they are not approved to play, and you have to email the registration team, okay? Part of the registration process is what we offer, which is the Club Pass, right? Now, so Club Pass is basically a designation that we offer players within the same club to play for multiple teams, okay? So if I'm the coach or I'm the club director for Cobras, right? And I have a very good U10 player, I can use a club pass to club pass him up to U11 and give him some extra playing time. See how he does with the older boys. Kind of to help his development. Now, again, as a club pass, well, you have to be the same club. So, what is a club? A club is someone that's enrolled by the same account, a club director or registrar. They have the same uniforms with the same club logo, and they have one designated registrar that is responsible for all roster changes, right? Now, why do we have these specific rules of what is a club, what's not a club? Well, it's to prevent coaches from simply saying, oh, yeah, me and him, yeah, we're a club, just so they can share teams and basically make all-star teams, or share players and make all-star teams, right? We're not going to allow that. It is specifically designed for clubs, right, to be able to give more opportunities to the players that, are a little bit higher level and need a little bit more time or they need that extra chance to develop further. So just an important disclaimer: if we as a league find out or decide that you're not a club, right, we have the right to deny a club designation, and you won't be able to use Club Pass to share players. So a lot more detailed information can be found on EPPremierleague.com. Again, right, if we come back to that website, register Club Pass, you'll see a more detailed breakdown, as well as rules, limitations, some important exceptions. But some of the most important things are that a player may not play for two teams within the same age group, right? So that means if you're playing on a U10 or a U11 championship team, you can't club pass to a U11 premier team, right? It can't be within the same age group, okay? It has to be up. Your age, if you're U11, you can club pass to U12, U13. It has to be up, okay? Now, important exception there. Girls may play in their all-girls division, so they may play in the U13 girls division, and then they can club pass to the boys division the same age. That is an important exception for girls as well, and that's obviously to give some of those girls that are ready to compete a little bit more the opportunity to compete with the boys, develop further. Okay. So again, a player can only play in their primary age group and then club pass to an older. Okay. So there are some exceptions for U8 and U7, which is basically where we offer two formats. So U8 we offer 4v4 and 7v7. U10 we offer 7v7 and 9v9. So there's some key exceptions there that you can read a little bit more about. The last really important thing is that if your player is in a recreational division, they can only club pass to other recreational teams. Okay, so the idea behind that is that we unfortunately had situations come about where people were club passing really good players from championship or premier teams into club pass into recreational divisions. I'm sorry, and obviously those teams were making that team unstoppable at that level. So recreational teams we're not going to take away the opportunity for you to club pass. However, you can only club pass to another division, right? The thought being, if you're in a recreational team, then you're at a stage in your development where you should only be playing recreational. So players that wish to participate with Club Pass can register and pay for Club Pass in the link in the registration page that I just showed you. It is that's where you can register and pay whatever the fee is at that moment. At this point in time, it's $50 per extra team you play on. So now moving on to the schedules process, which is the second most important process that you're going to be sort of dealing with this season, or during your time at the El Paso Premier League. So we usually try to post schedules for week 1, sometimes week 2, close to the start of the season. And then once we're all settled in and we work out all the conflicts and the requests, we'll post out the rest of the season. Now, schedules are always subject to change, right? We'll sort of talk a little bit about it, but every team has 2 schedule change requests. So your schedules will change. It's not set in stone. There's 2 type of requests that are schedule change requests and schedule blackout requests that I really want to dive into. Right now, before the start of your season, the most important one is your blackout date request, right? These are dates throughout the season that your team will not be available to play. They're traveling to a tournament. You have, a wedding somewhere, or something's happening. It is important for you to let us know before the season starts, and that way we can do our best to accommodate. If we go back to our coaches page, you'll be able to find this current season's schedule blackout dates form right here under the schedule request forms. So again, for this particular season, August 27th is the deadline, but you'll be able to see what the deadline to submit your schedule blackout request form is for whatever season it is you're currently in. So super, super important. Once the entire schedule is posted, then we kind of jump into our schedule change requests, right? Now this is when things come up. We know, life is life, right? And things will happen. However, we do have certain guidelines that we expect every team to follow. So every team has two schedule change requests, right? So coaches can use their schedule change requests if they're made 72 hours or more prior to your game time. Okay, so you find out, half of your team is going out on vacation on a Monday, your game's on Saturday. You let us know as soon as possible, as long as it's more than 72 hours and you have available schedule change requests, then we'll be able to go ahead and make that change. If you don't have any more available schedule change requests, then the schedule will not be made, and if you don't show up to play, it'll be a forfeit. Okay. Now, games changed or canceled within 72 and 48 hours of game time, right? That little area of 2 to 3 days before game time. We will do our best, right? We will do our best to make sure we will do our best and try to reschedule that game for you. If you have requests available still, and if it is rescheduled, the requesting team must pay the referee of the rescheduled game, right? But if it can't be rescheduled, then you're fully expected to show up, and if you can't, then it will be a forfeit. Okay. Finally, games canceled within 48 hours of game time, they will not be rescheduled. They can't be rescheduled. It's too close to game time, and so those games will be lost via forfeit if the team doesn't show up to play. Now, if you have any more questions about this, please feel free to reach out. We expect schedule changes to happen. Things happen. Life happens, right? So just really understand the timeframes and timelines, and if you know you need to make a change, it's better to let us know ahead of time. Okay. So we obviously hate running into forfeits of any nature, but sometimes they happen, right? So if you know you're not going to make your game, let us know, right? Let us know ASAP. That way we can forfeit, we can let the other team know. If a coach wants to purposefully forfeit a game for any reason, the referee will announce the game as a forfeit at half field. What do we mean by that? It means, hey, half of my team didn't show up, but I have, my other team just finished their game. Can I play with my other kids here, so that we can just get the game? It's a forfeit. If the other coach is okay with that, we can definitely do it. We can do a scrimmage. It's just better to have that communication, right? Of if you want to purposefully forfeit that game, you need to communicate it to the referee and to the other head coach. However, we do have a no-call, no-show, fee, right? To sort of prevent it as much as possible. We've all been on the receiving end of a no-call, no-show where you get up, it's early, you drive to the fields, and then the other team doesn't bother to show up. It's really something incredibly frustrating that we're really trying to eliminate. So a team that does not show up to play and doesn't let us know will obviously automatically lose the game via forfeit, but will also incur a no-call, no-show fee, which is the referee fee plus a $30 fine. Okay, and that team will not be allowed to play until the fee is paid. Okay, a team or club that consistently forfeits games without notifying will no longer be accepted to participate in the EPPL. So it's a serious issue. It's not a huge problem, but it's very serious, and we all hate it to happen to any of us, or when it happens to anyone. So again, if you know you're not going to make it, if your parents all canceled in that morning, just as soon as let someone know. Let a referee manager know using that hotline. Send an email, anything you can do. That way we can let the other team know and save everyone the trip. Super, super important. Playoffs and finals are already posted. They are on the important dates and calendar that I showed you. You already know what dates they are for your particular season. So there's a few important things that we always like to talk about when we talk about playoffs and finals. So finals weekend is finals weekend, right? That is when the league ends. So we cannot push it after that. That is when the league has to end. So once posted, playoffs will not be rescheduled, right? So if you're traveling during playoffs, not finals, because finals we can't make any changes, let us know before the blackout deadline, and we'll do our best, right? We can't accommodate anything, but we hate having teams forfeit playoffs. So if you look at your important dates and calendar for your particular season, if you know you're going to be traveling during playoffs, let us know. We'll try to do our best, and see what we can do for you and your team. So moving on to another really important thing, which is your coach's requirement. So every coach is expected to complete their requirements and have their valid coach ID hanging around their neck, physically present and visible during every game. It is the best way to easily identify, the responsible adult, the head coach, the assistant coaches at any game, right? So you will need your physical coach ID present and visible at all games. If you want to coach on the sideline, please check the league calendar to see which date you must have your ID present. So again, always checking that important dates and calendar. It'll say we always give a grace period, to allow all the coaches to get their IDs, to get everything taken care of. After that date, whatever it is for your season, if there is not a coach present with a valid ID hanging around their neck, that game will be lost via forfeit, okay? And that coach or a coach needs to be present all game, okay? You can't just come in first half and then leave, all right? Very, very important. Now, how do I complete our coach requirements? Now, again, if we come to our coaches page on the EPPL website and we scroll all the way down, we have, kind of the instructions on how to do it, how to go step by step, starting with paying for the actual coach membership and then everything else. But coming back to our Got Sport page where we log in, you're going to come onto your account. If you head over to the dashboard and you scroll down to where it says El Paso Premier League, you'll be able to see what you need. So this particular season is 25-26, and you'll be able to see what you need to do, it'll say fulfilled, expired, anything like that. And if you go in and click details on each of these, it'll show you how to complete all of them. So we kind of went through everything you need to do before game day. So now, right, we have everything ready to go. We checked our rosters with everything. Now it's game day, okay? So before game day, make sure, again, right, check your roster PDF to make sure all of your players are approved to play. Big one, right? That's probably one of our biggest headaches throughout the season, especially those first couple of weeks where we have coaches just showing up to games, never checking the roster, and then all of a sudden, hey, I'm missing, 5, 6, 7 players. So always make sure you double check your roster PDF before game day. Another big thing is be on time, right? So there's a 10-minute courtesy period, but after that, the game will be forfeited. Another really, really important one is every team is expected to have a game ball, right? So this is not something that we use a lot. However, it does happen season to season from time to time. So the official rule is that if you do not have a game ball, a penalty kick will be awarded to the opposing team at the beginning of the match, okay? And there is no courtesy period for a game ball, right? At game time, you need to have your game ball. Another really important thing is pictures, right? Making sure your pictures on your roster PDF, on your player identification card, on your player IDs are up to date. Are they clear, they're visible, they're easily identifiable for each player, and they're up to date. And that really comes into play when we jump into player check-in. But again, its own section because that's how important it is for you as a coach to make sure all of your pictures are up to date. And very quickly, do I have... Okay, so I don't have a picture on how to update player pictures, but we can definitely help you out if you just send us an email to the registration tab. Okay, so player check-in, right? So for player check-in, a coach may present physical or virtual ID cards or, again, that roster PDF as a means of player identification. Whatever the coach presents, right, whatever I have on my phone, or if I printed it out, must match the referee's game report. The referee's game report has the final say. It'll show everything from approved players, suspended players, if they got a red card, anything like that, right? So the coach must present one of these documents to the referee. The referee and the other team's head coach will check every player using the information on the game report and the pictures on the coach's document, right? On your phone, that roster PDF, whatever it is. So the other team's head coach will look at the pictures, check in the team one by one. Then that coach will go over to the other team, check in the other team, right? We just want clear communication, clear information to avoid any potential issues. However, if there is an issue, a field manager can be called, right? But the game has to start as scheduled, right? So what do I mean by that? It's that let's just say there's an issue with a player identification, right? Hey, I'm the head coach of the other team, and I'm saying, hey, this kid is not this kid on this picture, right? So first step is the referee has final say, right? Or the referee is the person in charge during that game. So whatever the referee says will go. So if the referee at that time says, hey, no, I'm saying that this player is this player, I'm verifying it, then we can go ahead and start. Or if the referee says, hey, no, I also think this player is not this player, they cannot play. So then that referee's decision is what stands at that moment. If there's any further clarification needed, field manager can be called to assist in the situation, but the game must start, right? So if the referee says the player can play, then the player can play. Once the field manager comes, they can take care of it from there. The other way around as well, right? If the field manager comes and is able to identify the player, then the player is allowed to play as well. So again, any sort of disputes, first step is the referee. Once the referee decides, the game has to start, and then anything else can be handled on the outside with the field manager. All right, so the big one, uniforms and numbers, okay? So all Premier and Championship Division teams must have the same uniform, right? So Premier Division, all of this is enforced week 1. Championship Division, look at your important dates and calendar, and you'll be able to see what date it'll be enforced. But again, Premier Division week 1, Championship Division is going to be stated on the important dates and calendar. So all players on a team must have the same uniform. Okay, obviously it's a team sport. We're fully expecting everyone to have the same uniform. However, we do understand that sometimes things happen. Uniforms, orders get stuck or uniforms get lost. So in cases where a player does not have a uniform, they must wear a solid colored jersey to match the rest of the team. If a player has only one jersey but forgot their other, they may wear a penny over the jersey as long as their number matches. Okay, what do we mean by that? So we run into this issue a lot during regular season play where a team has a home and away jersey and that player, for that instance, forgot one or the other, right? So then the rest of the team changes and that player doesn't have the other color. So they're allowed to play as long as the information on their jersey matches the game report, right? Number and everything. They're allowed to play with a penny over it. All players must have a jersey number, and that jersey number must match the official game report. Okay? Jersey numbers must be permanent. There's no tape. There's no anything allowed. It has to be permanent. A goalkeeper can have a GK as their jersey number on the roster, and if a player has different number on the jersey, so if a player has different numbers on different jerseys, you can input both numbers. Okay? So again, really quick, just coming back on that, right? It's how to add jersey numbers to your roster. There's a video on how to do that right here that you can find. But if we come back really quick, team management. So I won't have players on this particular roster, but let me see if I have players on this one. What about on this one? What about on this one? Okay, perfect. So this is just an example, right? I chose a different event because this is a test. But if I have my players here, jersey numbers can always be added on to the jersey right here. You would go number 10, hit save, go number 7, hit save, and so on and so forth. So again, you would go to your profile, team management, click on the team name, rosters, select the team. Obviously, select whatever event, whatever season you're in, hit search, and then you'll be able to add your jersey numbers here where it says jersey. Okay, not ID number, but jersey. So a player that does not comply with these rules will not be allowed to play. Okay, so that doesn't mean that it's a forfeit. That doesn't mean that if there's any confusion, the team loses, anything like that. It just means if I have my game report and I'm the referee, and here it says that Cesar Sosa is number 13, but on his jersey he has a 27 or anything like that, then that player will not be allowed to play. Right? They have to conform to the rules. Or let's say the whole team is wearing a red jersey and I show up with a orange one. I'm not going to be allowed to play. I have to comply with these rules. That is for Premier and Championship divisions. Recreational divisions only have to follow jersey rules, but not jersey number. Okay, so we fully expect all of the recreational teams to have the same uniform. However, they don't have to worry about numbers. Okay, if you need any further clarification on this, please feel free to reach out to us, and we'll explain it further if needed. So we do have this jerseys and numbers guide, and it is on the coaches resource page. Just to give you kind of a breakdown, a visual breakdown, we have our team uniform. It's a red jersey with our team logo, quick sponsor, anything like that. So what can I play with? Hey, I can play with my practice jersey or previous jersey of the same color. I can play with a solid colored t-shirt or jersey. So, hey, I have a few players that just ordered their jersey. It's not going to be here in time. Let me go to Dick's. Let me go to Academy, Walmart. Let me get them like just a solid colored jersey, t-shirt that matches the rest of the team. Can they play with their away jersey or any other not of the same color? No, right? However, if they have their away jersey, right, it's the same one here, and the information matches, then they can play with it as long as there's they're wearing a penny over it that doesn't mix up with the rest of the team. Obviously, the last one is they can't play with a jersey or t-shirt with other designs or colors, right? It has to match the rest of the team. Now, that's just for the uniform, right? Then we hop on to part number 2, which is the number, right? So this is kind of like a visual representation of what the game report will say. So it'll say Cesar Sosa number 13. Can I play with the correct jersey number that matches the game report? Yes. Can I play with a t-shirt that has tape on it? That's my visual representation of tape. No. Can I play with no jersey number? No. Can I play with the wrong jersey number? No. Okay? And very, very important disclaimer here at the bottom. A uniform number or numbers issue never results in a forfeit. Any player that does not comply with these rules will not be allowed to play. If the player is already on the field, the coach will be asked to remove the player, and they may not re-enter until they comply. Okay, so very, very important for you all to know that difference. So following on to game day is, where do I set up? Where do my parents set up? Okay, so the way we have it set up is for there to be enough room for a team and its spectators to be on one side of the field, and the opposing team and their spectators to be on the other side of the field as well. All these the designated areas for home and away teams will be on the official map. However, you can always remember that home will take the north or the west side of the field. All right? And again, home and away will set up on opposite sides. We do have this little graphic for seating arrangement. So again, if your field is vertical, you're going to have home on the west, away on the east, teams, spectators, same the other way around. Okay? So now it's game day. We got the game started. And now we kind of run into the coach behavior and consequences of it all, right? So coaches will be held to the highest standard, and we expect every single coach to behave in a manner that aligns with the values of this league. Coaches will be respectful, supportive, and do their best to promote good sportsmanship and fair play, right? So in the event that a coach is being disrespectful, rowdy, showing poor sportsmanship, the following will apply. The coach will be given a verbal warning with a yellow card. If the behavior continues, the coach will be shown a red card and asked to leave the field. If coach does not leave, the game will be forfeited by the offending team regardless of score. Okay, that means if the coach doesn't leave. If the coaches leave and there's an assistant coach present, the game can continue. However, if there's no other coach present with their valid coach ID, the game will be lost via forfeit. Right now, it's important to note that obviously starts when we do enforce the coach ID rule, which again, check your important dates and calendar. The next really important one, and it's a big one for us, just because we've all been in situations where the spectators or parents are kind of the ones that dictate sometimes the environment and the um, level of stress that we feel during a game. So we sort of strive to put the responsibility on the head coach, right, or on the coaching staff to control the spectator group and to control their parents, right? So that means that referees have been instructed to not engage or talk to parents directly. They will only talk to the coaching staff, right? So, that being said, spectators are expected to behave in a manner that aligns with the values of this league. Parents will be respectful, supportive, and will do their best to promote good sportsmanship and fair play. So, in the event that a parent or a group of parents are being disrespectful, rowdy, or showing poor sportsmanship, right? That means being disrespectful to the referee, being disrespectful to their team, the other players, just being rowdy, or showing poor sportsmanship, the following will apply. So the referee has been instructed to come directly to you, the head coach, and ask you to control your spectators. If that behavior continues, the referee will show you, the head coach, a yellow card. If the behavior continues after that, you will be shown a second yellow card, and you will be a subsequent red card, and you will be sent off. Okay. Now, after that point, a few things have to happen in order for the game to continue. So you as a coach have to leave, and the spectators' behavior has to improve. If those two do not happen, the game will be stopped and forfeited by the offending team, regardless of score or match type. Okay? So again, you as a coach have to leave, and your parents have to improve their behavior. If the behavior continues, then the game is forfeited. Okay? Now, after you as a coach leave, again, there has to be another coach present with their valid ID. Once we start enforcing that rule, check your important dates and calendar. If not, the game will be lost via forfeit. Okay. Again, anything that you need clarification on, be sure to reach out. We'll go ahead and explain it further. Now, we do have a zero tolerance for violence policy. So any team that engages in physical violence will be subject to player suspensions, point reductions, and even a team suspension from the league, and no refunds will be given. Now, each suspension or each consequence is handled on a case-by-case basis. So again, just communicate that to your players, communicate that to your team. Let's do our best to end violence in youth sports and not continue it. Another really big one that you as a new coach really have to explain to your parents is pitch invasions, right? So a pitch invasion, as it pertains to the Paso Premier League, is a parent or spectator coming onto the pitch, parent, spectator, or coach, really, coming onto the pitch to incite or participate in violence, right? So if a parent comes onto the field and is cursing or is, threatening or is doing anything to incite violence, then the game is immediately stopped and that team loses that game via forfeit. There is a lot more on these two particular topics on the official rules and in your coach handbook. Please read up on it. Make sure you understand it. Make sure your parents and your spectators understand it as well. So obviously on the other spectrum, right, we just kind of went through parent behavior, coach behavior, all that stuff. Well, we also have referee behavior, right? We want to know, we're not ignorant to the fact that referees, not all referees are perfect. So we really want to know what's going on in the experiences you're having. However, I don't want to know by someone yelling it across the parking lot, right? Your refs suck or something like that. No, we don't want to. That's not a formal grievance. So this is the only way where we will handle referee grievances or referee grievances. Sorry. So it'll be handled through the referee grievance protocol, which is basically saying that if you had an issue with a referee, you have to find the form on the coach's page, right? If we come back to our coach's page, referee grievance, right? It's a form. You can download this, fill it out, describe the events. It is the only way that we can keep tabs on, what we'll call the bad apples, right? And making sure that we have a file on every single referee. And that way, once we see that there is a recurring issue with a referee, we can take the proper steps to educate that referee, to suspend that referee, or ultimately to terminate that referee from participate, or for preventing that referee from participating in El Paso Premier League games. it is important to note that only serious and concrete grievances will be will be taken into consideration, right? So, he didn't. This referee, I'm filing a grievance because he didn't call a handball, and I lost an opportunity for a penalty kick. Well, that's unfortunate. However, that's not really a grievance that we will take into consideration in terms of referee, consequences, right, for that sort of stuff. So, what are some of the important grievances that we really need to know about? So, referees that don't check, IDs, or don't allow the other head coach to check IDs, anything like that, super important. We need to know. Obviously, referees that don't know the rules, referees that are going through games, not knowing the rules, letting players use headers, right, in 7-on-7, or letting players slide tackle in 4-on-4. That sort of thing is something that we need to know about, and we need to have those grievances on file. Obviously, referees that are being rude and disrespectful, super, super important for you to make that grievance, right? Another one that is not on here, that I really want to touch on, is effort, right? So a referee that kind of just walks around, looks sluggish, doesn't really look like he wants to be there. We really, really want to know about these sort of situations, and we would really appreciate it if you file these formal grievances so that we can have a file on each referee and keep tabs on referee behavior. So really quickly, other coaches, other spectators, and referees can also file complaints against spectators. That'll be a more direct communication whenever these sort of things happen, but you can read a little bit more about that as well. So finally, one of our biggest, I don't want to say biggest issues, but one of our biggest pushes at the El Paso Premier League is to kind of rid our community of cheating, right? It's unfortunate, but we sort of live in a culture where people think like, oh, it's no big deal, just play or whatever, right? Nothing's going to happen. However, something does happen, right? At the end of the day, the other team suffers, your team suffers. No one wins in terms of cheating. So we've really implemented a strong no tolerance, zero tolerance cheating protocol, if you wish, or consequences, if you wish. So on the first offense, the offending team will be removed from the season, and an email will be sent out to all participants notifying them of the team's removal. No refunds will be given. So if you're caught cheating, right, if you play a player that's older, if you play a player that's not who they say they are, if you play a player that is not on your roster, right, again, the importance of checking your roster PDF, you will be removed from the season. Your team will be removed from the season, and an email will be sent out to everyone notifying them of your team's removal. Okay? Now, I really want to touch again on that includes purposefully playing a player that is not on your roster. Okay? If I show up to a game and I notice that one of my players is missing, it's better to have that conversation. And if you really want to play that player, forfeit that game and play them rather than trying to just sneak them in, because that is, right, considered cheating. It's an ineligible player, and these are the consequences that you will suffer. Okay? If you come back at a later season and there is a second offense, your entire club will be removed from the season and no refunds will be given. Okay? It's very straightforward. It's very black and white. It's something that we really, really want to improve and even potentially eradicate in our community. And we really, really need your help to make that happen. So, right, if we have a player protest, right, let's make sure it gets handled at the site of play. Okay, so it must occur during your game, halftime, or right after the game before signing the game report. If you have a doubt, if you have any questions over a player's identity, if a player showed up late and you didn't see them get checked in, approach the referee. Tell them, hey, that player came late, or I have a question about that player. Let's go over there and check. Let's go over there and make sure that they're properly registered, that they're on the roster. And obviously, if you want to, you can contact a field manager and they can help you in that as well. So again, right, it's the easiest way to make sure that gets taken care of immediately, and we don't have to go. It's harder to go back afterwards and figure out if a player played, who they are, all that stuff. The other side of it is formal age protests. So if you have reason to believe that a player is older or a player is not who they say they are, and you have, the evidence because this or that, send that through to us through email, and we can sort of open up a formal investigation where we go through county records, we look at your evidence, we look up our own evidence, and we can decide there. Okay? So again, very, very important. And that's basically it, guys. That is the structure, the policies, the rules, all the important stuff of the El Paso Premier League. So as with any season, I'll remind coaches to remember your deadlines, check that important dates calendar, get your coach's ID as soon as possible. Always control your parents, right? Controlling your parents and your spectator group will control the energy and the vibe of the game, and the kids will enjoy it more, you'll enjoy it more, and ultimately they'll enjoy it more as well. Always remember that there's no business on the fields, okay? Remember to make sure you complete all your roster updates, you send in your roster updates, your roster changes, everything before the weekly deadline. And at the end of the day, it's always about showing and promoting good sportsmanship, fair play, and most importantly, letting the kids play. All right, I wish you the best of luck in your time here at the El Paso Premier League. I hope you enjoy it, and I'll see you out on the fields.